All right, hey everybody, TG here. Let's see if we get everything up and running. It's so July 20th. It's my dad's birthday, so we're gonna go flying later today. Gonna get out from the markets a little bit early. I go meet up with him at Painfield, and then it's a beautiful day. It's nice and warm out here, so we're gonna go surf the skies for a little bit. So happy birthday to him. Yeah, thanks guys. So it'll be a good day, and then we get to see him over the weekend as well, and then we'll go surf some water with the wake surf boat. So yeah, it's just gonna be a few days of fun. Our family likes to do birth weeks. I don't know if you guys do that. I can sometimes make it a birth month if I'm lucky, but then they kind of rip on me a little bit. So I have to be balanced with how much I get. But it's a good time. We always like to celebrate people's days. But yeah, thanks guys. And so over here, profitpilot.com, wanted to talk about this market bounce in play. It was actually pretty funny. My buddy Jason, I don't know if he's out there listening to this at some point, but he texted me because this newsletter video that I put out, and then we had certain captions in the email, and he's like, well, that didn't age well. And that was, let me show you which day that was. It was right here when Apple came out with the news that they were going to reduce hiring and just kind of cut back because they're seeing economic headwinds. And so, of course, he gets the email message that I was saying, hey, are we doing a bounce? Like, where are we going this? And I put that newsletter out over the weekend. And so what? Then Monday, Tuesday, kind of up move, but then that down move, and so he's just ragging on me. He's like, "Well, that didn't age well." I'm like, okay, well, let's just see how that goes. And then we got yesterday and today starting to push back up. So I got to say that was pretty funny. It is always good to have friends out there that keep it real with you. And sometimes when trading, we can. It's kind of a solo sport, so it's fun being here. It's great having subscribers and other traders here that we can kind of bounce some ideas off of. And so go check that out at profitpilot.com. That was kind of the whole point of my long story here, is go check out that video, because that's where I kind of think things are going and how we should take a look at stuff. And I'll go do a brief little overview of what I'm thinking there too. So oftentimes what we see is in bear markets on a larger time frame, and again, so big time frame, it's going to be a little bit difficult to track it day to day, but the bigger picture is typically price, well, for anything, price doesn't like to stay away from moving averages for too long. And we then also see on the monthly time frame that typically in a bear market or down moves, price will get rejected by the underside of a downtrending monthly 10. Well, that's what this blue line is. And we have definitely sliced through it, but notice how far we are from it now. And we're 20 days into July, and so we'll see where this one goes. But what about August? What if we get a bar that starts to come up like that? Okay. And granted, again, we're still in a bear market. I do think we're going to go much lower later, but what about right now? And you also have to think about what's the news. The news is really bad. Everything's bad, right? It almost seems like it can't get worse because it's so bad, which from a stock market perspective is kind of means everybody is on one side of the trade, and that's the boat's too heavy on one side. So keep that in mind. I've been talking about how the bottom was we're trying to hammer out a bottom in through here. It has not been easy. It's definitely been choppy. That's kind of the message I've been also conveying, is like, this is not going to be fun or easy. But last week, I pointed out, look at that weekly candle. That's not too shabby. We tested the lows, even undercut it a little bit, and we ended high. And now look, we have this week, we are starting to actually break past the weekly 8. And to the Moxie subscribers, you guys know I've been basically targeting just above the weekly 21 to about 415, something like that. And that's kind of the first area. And then we'll have to decide after that. I don't know if price is going to go there, go sideways and go higher, or if it's going to pull back and go higher, or pull back and then go lower. So that's why it's like, okay, let's just take this one step at a time. And basically weekly 21 is kind of where I'm looking at over there. Yeah, nice guys. Thanks. The Moxie group is giving a lot of love over there, so I appreciate it. Yeah, Benji. Yeah, your girlfriend's taking advantage of the birth month too, huh? Sounds like kindred spirits. All right, so on the daily and the hourly chart, as I said, it's been choppy. I've had all sorts of trend lines trying to figure out, like, okay, is that one gonna work, or how about that one? And it's just a mess. But basically, what we're now starting to see is we do have price getting past the hourly 200, whereas before it could not. Notice that the 50 is starting to cross over the 200. And all of these have been trampoline moves. So a trampoline move, for those of you in the free trading room or out there in the metaverse, I guess Facebook and YouTube, a trampoline move is when price is below the 50, but the Moxie indicator is above 0. It is. They don't always work. You know, you got to use the next lower time frame to confirm it. And it was definitely difficult to work with because this last one happened with a couple like punch downs. We had the CPI, we had the PPI, and it, again, going back to my buddy who was giving me a hard time about me putting out a video saying like, well, I think the market is eventually going to get up to this level. And then, of course, that was the day that the market pulled back. The other thing I had been saying was, look at how the market reacted to this latest CPI compared to here, where the market reacted to the previous CPI. Kind of a big difference, right? Yes, it dipped down, opened with a gap down, but then got bought back up. That is vastly different than what happened here. And so it was kind of those things that I was saying, like, we should be looking at that. It's not too bad. Not too bad. It's kind of trying to shake those weak hands out. It got me on a couple trades, but I think we'll be getting back in on some of those. So I think that was something to kind of keep in mind. And then kind of right in through here was where we finally started to see things really tighten up and look pretty good. So that's where I was coming from. And again, PPI, another knock down, but then kind of bought itself back up. The internals were really weird that day. I got to say, for price being down and then moving up, the internals I think were negative for most of the day. I was like, okay, weird stuff going on over there. The other thing that I had been talking about is basically this distance between price and the daily 50. And you can see, even going back here, that price doesn't like to stay away from its moving averages for too long. And in this case, I think it was about time that price started to get up towards the daily 50. And you can see that now we're beyond it. So we're making progress. Now, it won't be the easiest thing in the world. And in fact, I've been bringing these charts up quite a bit. So remember 2000 and 2008, for this. And one thing that we needed to keep in mind, it's like, okay, are we going to flag right into the 50 and then roll over? Or how about this one? Are we going to flag just a little bit past the 50, chop around, and then roll over? Or is it going to be something a little bit different? Like, you can even see this one got over the daily 50, then rolled over. So we do need to be vigilant about that. We don't know how far this is going to go. That's why I'm saying, like, look, maybe we can get to 415 and then we'll have to reassess. But if this does turn out to be a bigger move, then maybe we could be seeing something like this where it can actually get over the daily 50 for some time. Or we could even see this one where it gets over the daily 50, happens to test the daily 50, but then is able to get past it for some time. Despite all that, again, we're in a bear market, and I think this is just a glorified bounce in a bear market. So what you'll see is that even in this one, and even in this one, where we had fairly lengthy and elevated moves over the daily 50, what happened to each one of them? They each eventually ran into resistance and rolled over. So you got to keep that in mind, that yes, we are moving up, but I do think that that move up will be eventually into resistance, and then we'll just have to look out for that. So a couple little roadmaps, some templates to look at to see what we can do over there. All right, so yeah, got all that. That's the S&P. And then this will not, as I keep saying, this is not going to be the easiest or smoothest path. I don't think that we are going to be on, again, this is just my guess, but I don't think we're going to necessarily be on a path for something like this. It doesn't feel like this thing is just screaming and rip-roaring and that kind of stuff. So I think more what we need to expect, let me just kind of bring up, something like, well, I'm trying to think, how about ZM? Because ZM kind of already had some moves. I wouldn't be surprised to kind of see stuff like this. If you guys can kind of see where I'm going with it. You can see here how price did get over the daily 50, but then it pulled back to the daily 50, but then it made a new high, and then pull back, and then another thing like this. I'm kind of envisioning that this is the way that the market is going to move up. We've been seeing a lot of this in a variety of names, just chopping around. While they are making progress, they are going from, you know, A to B, but they are doing this the whole way there. So wouldn't be surprised to see that happen, which means that dips should be viable. As scary as they might feel in the moment, we may not have the best setups down low. They might just kind of go, and which is a little bit challenging for my style, because, you know, for me with a momentum trader, it works best when things are already in an uptrend. But when we have, say, the 15-minute in an uptrend, and the hourly is kind of turning from a downtrend, and then the daily is basically sideways, we have every single direction possible, and we're trying to trade as things are going up and down through each one, and then bending and curving all those moving averages. You know, like ZS, you know, here's another one. You can see it's probably going to start making its way higher, but look at the path that it's done. And it's going to be a little bit challenging to figure out which names you want to go for, and which names are going to get where you want to go, and how many twists and turns you're going to have to deal with. So it's really going to be a stock picker's dream or a stock picker's nightmare, I think, as far as what we're going to be experiencing in through here. Yeah, Moxie Fellowship, I saw you guys chatting about that. Selling puts on the dips, put credit spreads. I'm not an options trader, but I know the theory and all that kind of stuff. That seems like a fairly comfortable way to be doing some trades here. If you can find where these things are going to be zigzagging from and channel trading, you know, because even if you go over to Google just had their split. And so we'll see what kind of, you know, personality change it has now that it's $100 instead of like $2,000. But you can see, you know, it's been doing this channel trade fairly well. Not the cleanest setups as far as moving averages and the Moxie indicator. This is chop. This is really just chop. But they've been doing a decent job with these channels. And so if you can take advantage of that, then go for it. You know, go sell those puts or sell those calls, and you can just make money on where price won't go. So that's kind of the stuff that I'm trying to point out and bring to people's attention, because even though I may not trade something a certain way, I know a lot of you guys do, and at least there can be some good team effort about guidance and how to take advantage of some of that stuff. So yeah, Mark, the Moxie indicator can absolutely be used for day trading. I show that quite often. Let me see if I can get this up here, and let me see if I can pull a couple things out. So here, if we just look at Google on the daily chart, and again, I don't really do day trading, mostly because I'm busy and I don't have the the patience for it, but I can point things out. So let's see, look here on the 5-minute. Notice how price went down right there. Notice how the Moxie indicator was slightly higher, and even if it was flat, that would still be a positive divergence. Then what you can notice is here, see how price was below the 50, but notice how the Moxie indicator is above 0. That's a trampoline move. And then you can see here, price was holding the 5-minute 50, and then price got up there. In through here, price got rejected by the 5-minute 50, the Moxie indicator was below 0, and even here, you can see that was an inverse trampoline move. So price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0, and that helped you in that situation. So those are a couple things just to point out. Maybe even on the 15-minute low, price down, Moxie indicator up, so there was some positive divergence there. So, you know, they're around. You just have to look for them. Let's see if I can point. Yeah, in through here, you can see, how about this? At the top of this range here on the 5-minute, you can see the Moxie indicator was staying below 0 the whole time. So again, another inverse trampoline move. And then let's see, right about there, let me put that cursor there. You can see price pulled back into the 5-minute 50. The Moxie indicator stayed above 0. That was pretty good. And then you could see some negative divergence was coming in at the top of that move. So yeah, I mean, I'm just pulling this out right here and showing you. So yeah, absolutely. Moxie works. It's all the same concept. That's kind of what I tell people, is that everything that I talk about on the weekly, the daily, the hourly, whatever, you take the same concept and you just apply it to the 15, the 5, and the 2. And you just have to realize that either it's going to be a little bit messier because they're lower down, or they're just not going to be as strong because, well, they're 5 minutes, you know. But the same principles are there. All right, let's see. All right, I don't know if we have any I don't know if we have any moderators out there on Facebook and YouTube, but if we can get rid of Sonic and gaming. He's just not being a cool participant here. All right, so let's see, EWZ. You know, we're all here to help each other, so we don't need to be trolls. All right, EWZ, bullish swing trade. Yeah, thanks. I'll tell my dad, yeah, I put his name blast out on the internet. So let's see, as far as being bullish on EWZ, I think we're kind of in the same category as what I was talking about with the S&P. It's messy. It does look like things are trying to bounce. They're trying to slow down. They're trying to slow their descent, and they're trying to move up. Now, one of the ways that I've been talking about this is how ripe something is or how mature something is. And that I would be looking at EWZ and I say, well, it seems to be a little bit of a laggard. Yes, it can move up, but it's not one of the first ones out of the gate. You'll notice that on the daily chart, it is still mostly getting rejected by its daily 8. Now, that could be changing. You know, it could start moving up, but it's not leading the pack. And if you look at the hourly chart, it is still trying to get past its hourly 50. Yes, there's a trampoline move, sure. So that's why I'm saying I think these things are going to be working. They're going to start moving up. But as far as I see that, it looks a little bit weaker for the situation. The hourly 200 is still in a downtrend, okay? So while this could start moving up, it's got a lot of things to turn. These moving averages are still in a downward direction. The daily 8 is still a sizable distance below the daily 21. So you've still got a lot of negativity, and you still have a lot of downtrend momentum. So I would personally be looking at something else. If you want to go long on something, I would personally be looking at something else that seems a little bit more ready to go. Let's see, long Neo. Well, I'm still short a couple Chinese names, because as you can see, they're still kind of pulling back. In fact, PDD was one that we got out yesterday, mostly because I just wanted to kind of free up some space, and I was seeing that things were starting to kind of go up with the rest of the market, so I just wanted to capture our profits on this one. It is here at the daily 50, but it is still getting rejected by the underside of the hourly 50. So PDD could still go lower. In fact, I think the VWAP on this one is right about here to where the third ATR is on the daily chart. So I think it could go a little bit lower. So I'm not totally set bullish on Neo yet. But Topspin, if you wanted to be bullish, what I would be looking for is price generally pulling back into an uptrending daily 50. Now, it's not there yet, and I don't see any signs or triggers on the hourly chart yet, so it's not there. But if it's going to be bullish, then something around the uptrending daily 50 would probably be the reason, but it's just not there yet. Even XPEV, you know, XPEV, look at that. That's a perfect 5250 maneuver, and it went all the way back down to the daily 50. It could keep going further, but I definitely don't see a buy yet. You know, Moxie indicator is still red and still below 0. I mean, even prices below all of these moving averages. So there's just nothing here yet, and the Chinese market is still weak. Let's see. Yeah, Nick, good to see you. Let's see. AI. Holding in the daily 50 pretty well, and look for a buy after the market pullback from weekly 21. So yeah, so going back to like what I was talking about EWZ and how some names are a little bit more mature or riper than others, I would at least put this in the category of trying its darndest. You know, it's trying. It's looking better. You can see how it tried to get over the daily 50 once, even back here, it just couldn't do it. But now look what's different. You know, it is holding the daily 50, and we do have the 8 over the 21. So it's trying. It's choppy, it's messy. So if you like this stock, then by all means. And you can see that the hourly 200 is at least in an uptrend, and you can see that the 50 is over the 200. So it is definitely trying, and if you are interested in this name, then it seems like it's got opportunity. And if we look this on the weekly chart, you can see kind of the elf shoe, right? Double bottom right there. So leg, heel, arch of the foot, ball of the foot, and it's working on its elf toe. Just keep in mind that again, these names are trying to pick themselves off the floor, and it's a long process, and you have to keep in mind that the weekly 8 is still below the weekly 21, and so it's got a lot of work to do. It's unlikely that it's just going to go like this. It's probably going to go like this, and then like this, and then like that, and then like this, and like that. You know, typical stock stock patterns, up, down, up, down. So just expect that, and depending on your timeline, you know, if you think it's going to go up here and it takes 4 months, and you're like, cool. Or if you want to trade it here, and then here, and then here, and then here, and then here, you know, then you can do that too. So yeah, these things are just starting to turn. I mean, if you look at that daily chart, don't you notice that this is just now starting to become different? You know, rejection, rejection. Now we're finally getting some support. So this is what I'm starting to see out there. And that's why we picked up a few names yesterday, and it worked out pretty nicely. So I'll be looking to pick up some more. As I said, I would not be surprised if it's going to be choppy and that there will be pullbacks. So look for pullbacks as opportunities to get in on some stuff. All right, let's see what else you guys are looking at. You guys in the Moxie group, I'll have to follow up on some of your stuff, but thank you for all the birthday wishes to my dad. He might be listening to this. He likes to tune in on some of my stuff too. Let's see. So, Mike, all the lithium stocks are nearing their earnings. I also don't like to trade earnings, so we're coming right into earnings season, which is a little bit unfortunate. So I'm perfectly willing to trade up to earnings and then after earnings, and usually you don't miss anything. A lot of times that even look at AI, you know, look, see, you might think that you missed something because you didn't trade earnings or it had that huge move to the upside, but if you waited, it came right back down anyway. So a lot of times you just don't miss anything too often by waiting after earnings. A lot of times, even if price jumps up a lot for earnings, it will come back down or flag, and you'll find just as good of a place to enter after earnings. So that's why you're usually never too sad about skipping earnings. All right, so LTHM, if we look at this stuff, you know, I just don't think I'm ready to tackle these things. I think that perhaps the lithium stuff was a little bit of a commodity play, and commodities are rolling over. Okay, you know, kind of the inflation trade. Well, at least as far as commodities, the inflation thing is over, so it seems. And not ready. I'm not ready to do this. You know, if you look at, say, LTHM, and Mike, since you're in the Moxie group, I assume you know that this is probably going to be the arch of the foot on the daily chart. So I don't want to be buying at the arch of the foot. And on the hourly chart, what do we got here? 50, 200, 50. So just because, say, LTHM is up for the last couple days, and cool, you could catch that move if you want to, but for me, this is what I consider the first move. And given the elf shoe, and given the 50, 250 maneuver and all that stuff that I know you guys know, then I would imagine that there's going to be a pullback in this. And if that pullback is into support strength, and if it's buyable, then that would be the second move, and that's where I would be willing to go in. The only other thing is earnings, and whatever you want to do about that. Hey, if it pulls back into support and then you want to buy it before going in earnings, that's on you. Or if you want to wait till after earnings and it still looks good, great. But I'm not ready to be buying anything like that yet. Let's look at ALB. ALB, basically the same thing. You know, yes, it had a nice move, but if you look, I view this and this and this and this to be basically the same move. And so that's why I'm saying I would expect a pullback, and I would expect a pullback. Now, the previous pullback was not into support and it kept going down. Maybe this next one different, but we have to wait for it, and then we have to verify that it is into support and actually wants to hold and go up. But I'm not interested in buying here. It already had its run for right now, and I would wait for a pullback. And I'm going to imagine that the rest of those are going to be looking the same way as far as the lithiums. All right, so Mara. Yeah, Nick, you like to be counter trend sometimes, don't you? I'm not sure I want to trade this one short. I get what you're saying, that I do think that eventually there will be a pullback. You know, first move over the daily 50, pull back into the daily 50, definitely. But when and where that is, I don't see it yet, and this can go for a while. So I just wouldn't be too eager chomping on the bit to try and do that. Probably the nearest term something for Mara that you might get on a pullback is probably to the hourly 50, and it won't be here. It'll be up here probably by the time that happens, because of course it's a moving average and it can play catch up. So just because I say a pullback to the hourly 50 doesn't mean it's going to go like that. It means, well, wait until the 50 and price meet wherever they're going to meet sometime in the future. The other thing, Nick, this is why I caution you about trying to nab a pullback just because of pullback. They may not actually pull back. Look at that. Mara, it did my 50-250 rule, and it did exactly bounce off the hourly 50, but it did it with a multi-day sideways flag as opposed to a pullback down to the hourly 50. Like I covered this, I think it was earlier this week, and you look at Riot. Now Riot did do the pullback. Here was price, and look where it went, down to the hourly 50. So this is why when I say pullback to the 50, well, a pullback could actually be a flag, because look at the difference between Riot and Mara. They did the same thing, they just did it in a different way. So pretty fun stuff. I had a good time actually showing that earlier this week to the options room and the Moxie class and all that kind of stuff, and a very, very neat example between Riot and Mara on that. Austin, let's see. Good to have you back in the Moxie room, by the way. Let's see. So good news with ARK. Big move up today, 6.5%. It only has to move another 225% to get back to the highs. So you're saying there's a chance. Well, it just takes one day at a time, right? Doesn't it? Yeah. So I wonder how long it's going to take them to get back to that. Is it going to take them 5 years? Because that's her timeline. But yeah, so ARK, we actually got into TARK. Yeah. We actually got into that. It was the leverage ETF of ARK, and we got in there yesterday. I'd say that was pretty good, right? That was a good spot. And if you see here on the daily chart, it's been kind of holding that daily 50, and now we're starting to see some moves up. So, it's maybe not the greatest thing to be chasing up here, and I'm sure there will be dips and pullbacks, but it seems to me that we are starting to move on some of these names, and I'm interested in kind of picking up some more. And but even ARK, I talked about these channel trades. Even ARK was doing the channel trading, right? Up, down, up, down. And we'll have to see if it wants to keep doing that or if it's going to actually break out up or low. Yeah, Mitch, you guys are funny. All right, Halliburton. So oil, gosh, this is kind of similar to what I was saying to Mike about the lithium stocks. The inflation trade, the commodity trade, they all got hit real hard, and I'm not sure that they're going to necessarily spring back. So, Eagle, as far as kind of where I would go with this is, we can pick what we want to trade, and we can pick where we put our money. And I'm not sure that this is the best, most ideal place to try to go after. And I think that basically because, they got hit, and I'm sure you're looking at maybe there's a bounce, and there could be. If I look at UNG, natural gas, that thing had a heck of a bounce, like really. And so, sure, it's possible. But I don't know if that's the best area to go, because even if it does bounce, I think it's going to be into resistance, and I think that they're going to go lower. So kind of watch that. Yes, there is a gap here between price and the daily 50, and a reversion to the mean could take price back up there, but it could also just kind of do this until it meets the 50. Let me actually gold. If I show you GLD, here's my point. What if, so Eagle, what if you're trying to trade Halliburton for the reason that you think that, it's oversold and it's going to bounce back up to the daily 50 because, that's kind of the stuff I talk about, right? But what if it goes like this? What if Halliburton goes there and it does it in this very, very, very choppy way? Like you're trying to buy Halliburton basically right here. And what if by the time it hits the daily 50 here and it does all of that chop in between? I'm concerned that that's kind of what you might be stepping into, trying to trade, say, oil names. That's my thought. Again, if I could be right or wrong, but I think I'm just trying to show you a roadmap of what I think might be happening because I saw it here with gold. Gold got hammered and there was a huge gap between price and the daily 50. And so people were probably looking for a reversion to the mean or a bounce move. And yep, there was, but boy, that was a tough one. That was like really you would have to work real hard to make that trade. And then look, as soon as it did get close enough to the daily 50, what did it do? It got hammered again. So that's kind of my thought, and why I would probably just stay away from some of those oil names. You know, they just don't look like they're too, no pun intended, but maybe pun intended, not too energetic. All right. All right, guys. Well, that is my time. I'm sorry. I know there's still a lot of questions. The Moxie group, I'm going to be in the options room in half an hour from now, so I'll definitely finish up with some of your questions, and I'll be in the chat box in a little bit. So thanks again, guys. I'll talk to you later.